What's up, guys? So today on the podcast, we have Kade Ruotolo. So if you haven't been paying attention to jiu-jitsu for the last couple of years, there's these two young guys named Ty and Kade Ruotolo, and they are amazing at jiu-jitsu. I remember they were coming up and someone was telling me about them. They're like, I think back in 2016 or something like that. And they're like, dude, these brothers, it might've been Josh Hinger when he came up for the seminar. He's like, dude, these guys are sick. Yeah. And, I started watching, I'm like, dude, they're so good. And they're like, he just turned 18 and they just got done competing against, world level competitors. I mean, like Craig Jones, and they've been competing against these who's number one matches and stuff. It's phenomenal. So again, super, super fun kid to talk to. And, it's interesting to see people get that good at something that young. Yeah, his the ceiling is just like unlimited. I mean, you got guys like, we look at the top guys like Gordon Ryan. He was probably in his teens when he started. They started when they were 3 years old. Right. So like, I mean, you're talking about like they're already that good at 17. Imagine they physically start to develop and well, that's an interesting thing about the sport too. Some sports have this quality to them where you can be young and you can get into the pro leagues, Yeah. But not all sports you can. Like, for instance, like in NFL football, it ain't happening, right? Like, for instance, it's very unlikely that you're going to be 18 years old and you're going to make it to the NFL.
I see
because it's so physical.
Yeah.
But with jiu-jitsu, the basketball is the same way because there's just so much technique involved and things like that and speed. Jiu-jitsu can be the same way where you get these young people that can kind of, you can be a much different age, physicality and things like that. And you can still play in the pro leagues, which is, I think, it's just an interesting quality of the sport.
We saw that with, I'd say Chad from our gym. Chad was one of those,
Oh yeah. Chad was competing in adult divisions when he was like 14.
He was like purple belt, like 16, or how old was he when he got his purple belt?
16.
Yeah. And he was just, I mean, I remember with Chad, we did this kind of like tournament, kind of like in-house. It was like a mock tournament. And I remember him just like, he won. And I was like, oh, there it is. Like the chain. It's like, it's all right. Now he would be very competitive with upper belts. And
but you used to put that man strength on him.
And then he won. I was like, oh, this is different now. Yeah. But with Kade, I think his maturity level is very interesting to me. He seemed like he's really mature. He's been a professional.
Well, I think about that too. Like, think about this. Those kids they're not kids or adults now, but as they were kids, they were growing up around adults. Like, for instance, like their hangout was the gym, and you're surrounded by a lot of adults. So you don't have a choice but to kind of maybe get a little bit older, kind of mature a little bit more because, you become your surroundings. Right. So if you're, if we're surrounded by a bunch of other kids being silly, whatever, we're doing that, that's fine. Sure. But, if you're always surrounded by adults with like a mission on their mind, that's going to rub off on you because you are the company you keep. And so I think that a lot of times plays through, because I think there's a lot of kids that come into our gym that have been with us and they're with us for some years, and they'll be like 16, 17, whatever. Yeah. And like, I can talk to them, just hang out with them. Whereas most of the time I can't talk and hang out with like a 14 or 15-year-old. It's not, besides the fact that I wouldn't, because I don't know who they are, but it wouldn't be fun. It's just like, I wouldn't be able to have any connection with them. Right. But like, you can have some of the younger guys train, and even though there's a big age difference, you have this commonality between you, and you guys you click a little bit. And so I see that a lot of times where some of the younger guys that come in, they mature a little bit faster, or at least mature in a certain way because of the fact they're always surrounded with adults. Yeah.
Yeah. I think they get used to doing difficult things, and they're also used to kind of just being around, like, for the Rotolo brothers, they're around professionals. Like a lot of the guys at the gym and the women at the gym, they're professional athletes. So they kind of get to mimic that and then model that. And then they have the support at home to pursue that, which is huge.
So yeah. So guys, let's get into the podcast, because obviously I don't want to tell you everything about it. But it's a super fun episode, and it's interesting to hear about a young guy who is already at the world level, and he was in his teens, right? So fun and interesting interview. So hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Yeah, and the next thing he's got is there's a Polaris Squads event. We talk about that as well.
That's August 7th.
August 7th. So that's a cool thing. We talk about that as well. That's an interesting rule set. It's kind of combining some different things. So that's gonna be a cool thing to keep an eye out for. So
okay, yeah, I think they've got you check it out on their website, but they've essentially got this squad with a coach, and they've got this interesting system set up. So it's not like a quintet or anything like that. It's a little different. We'll talk about it a little bit in the podcast, but if you want to check that event out, you can go to their website. Just search for Polaris.
Yeah, I'll link it. I'll link the rule set
We'll
too.
put a link down there. So again, guys, thanks for being on the podcast with us today. Big thanks to our sponsor, Charlotte's Web. As I told you guys before, part of my I just at the time of so check this out. At the time of recording, because this will be pre-recorded because I'll be down in Costa Rica. But Chad, we were talking about him earlier. He had a destination wedding with his soon-to-be bride, and it was in Costa Rica. So we're down there. I know some people are like, "Oh, you got to go to Costa Rica." I feel like I'm getting my leg pulled, but I hate getting my schedule messed up. I like my schedule. Plus, Jess and I have a park in our backyard now. So I like hanging out in my park, like just walking around the grounds a little bit and sitting on our little park bench and just reading, like
Jiu-Jitsu Disneyland.
That's right.
We gotta give it a name.
I've been calling it the Chew Farm.
Okay.
But we'll have to come up with something else.
I can go about that. That could work.
Maybe if you guys got a good idea for us for our little property, you can send it out into us. But as part of my travel sort of thing, I always have stuff I travel with. Obviously, gis, rash guards. I always travel with those, and then anytime I travel, I always bring my CBD with me. And I always travel with the CBD balm too. I like those two things. One, because I like to make sure that, again, CBD has been really helpful as far as my sleep and recovery and everything else that I do. And then I also like the balm because sometimes when I get sore from training, Chewy's getting older, 36 now, got a couple years on me, a lot of mileage on me. I like that balm because that balm definitely helps. I definitely feel a difference. And it's, like even Jess, sometimes when Jess gets kind of sore, she's not like an athlete or anything like that, but sometimes her arms and stuff will get sore or whatever happens, she'll put it on and she enjoys it, right? So she likes it. So if you want to check out any of their stuff, any of their products, I encourage you to go to their website, charlottesweb.com, and try it for a month. Again, you've heard me talk about it. If this is your first podcast, and hey, what's going on? But you'll hear me talk about it again. You've heard me talk about it for plenty of times. I encourage people to try it for a month, see what it does for you. Because the first time I heard about Charlotte's Web, I heard about CBD, I thought it was just people blowing smoke, just okay, here we go, something else, because you hear these ad reads, where it's like, try this product, it's amazing, blah, 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 blah. And it just sounds fake to me because I'm like, guys, it doesn't sound real. Like you're reading something that they told you to read. Like I'm not reading it. Like any of the products that are on here, like they get sort of used before I ever bring them on because I don't really want to, as you can tell, I don't want to have to read like, it's great, you'll love the whatever. I don't want to have to speak like a robot, so I can speak from experience. Yeah, it's so much easier for me to offer things. So the way that I think about it is, like someone was telling me, I was talking to one of the guys. I'm like, he's like, man, I'm a terrible salesman. I was like, no, you're not. You just don't have anything you believe in. I was like, because if I have something I believe, like for instance, jiu-jitsu, I'm a friggin' terrific salesman in jiu-jitsu because I friggin' love it. I'm not having to sell you anything. I'm just telling you about it. It's awesome. You want to join me? Right? Same thing with everything that I do. It's like, if I don't like it, I don't even want to offer it. Because we've had situations where we remember those, like, we're not going to talk about what company it was, but remember those protein bars? Remember the ones that just crumpled? It was like, they were disgusting. Oh, yeah, they were disgusting. Yeah. I was like, I'm not going to, I don't care what you're going to offer. I'm not going to offer these. I was like, so again, I'm kind of
like, no,
we're not touching that one, bro. So,
you, I don't remember what it was. You have to do an ad. I was like, let's talk about this thing. And they kind of had a read of some sort. And dude, you stumbled over that thing.
It's awful. I'm like,
I was like, Chewy?
Now that maybe that's good or bad, I don't know, but
I think it's great.
But for me, it's like, for you guys that are listening, I can always read from experience, or I can always speak from experience rather than having to speak from a friggin' read. So with that said, I'm a big fan of the products, and my favorite product they have, if you're curious, is the gummies. You guys have probably heard it before, but I like their sleep gummies, and then I also like their tinctures. I always take them with me when I travel because I like the effects, and I love their CBD medic balm. I think they're fantastic products, and I would encourage you guys to try them, give them a whirl. If you want to save a couple bucks doing so, go to their website, charlottesweb.com. Promo code is jiu-jitsu, gives you 15% off the order, supports the podcast, and you get to try the product for a little bit less money. Also, big thanks to our sponsor, Epic Roll. Epic Roll has been with us for a little bit, and we're currently working on something. So in the near future, we'll have more details for you, but we're working on putting some rash guard and shorts together because I want to get another set of those, and I love his shorts. As you've heard me talk about, if you've been listening for a little bit, I like his Velcro-less shorts. I'm a big fan of them. And I'm also a big fan of the t-shirts and everything he sells. I'm a big fan of the style that he puts out there. Because again, a lot of people, anybody can make a t-shirt. Anybody can make a rash. I mean, you can just send someone a graphics here, print this on something. Anybody can make it. But I like the designs of things, and again, I don't have a creative bone in my body. And I like the way that Matt blends like really creative stuff, but with simplistic designs.
Yeah.
Because I'm one of those guys where less is more. I've always been this way. Like I don't want a bunch of stuff on my t-shirts. I like a little bit. I like a little something. And as I've said before, a lot of his stuff is like jiu-jitsu. It's like jiu-jitsu clothing geared for people that are in jiu-jitsu. You know, so it's like this thing where if I was wearing one of his shirts, you would probably know that I was a jiu-jitsu guy, right? And not because it screams jiu-jitsu, but because there's something subtle to it. You know, like if you saw me wearing the triangle choke shirt, you know that I am into jiu-jitsu because no one else is going to wear that shirt. Now, other people that are outside of our loop that see us wearing this stuff, they don't know what the heck it is. I kind of like that. I think it's fun. I think it's fun to wear something where it like lets you in on like the club, so to speak, right? I remember one time when I was in high school wrestling, I had the Shoot-a-Box hoodie. I just thought it was a cool looking hoodie. It was the old walkout hoodies, like it was Vanderlei Silva and those guys. Yeah. So
Shogun and all them.
Fun story. I got my very first bank account so that I could order stuff online with a debit card because my mom was like, she's like, I'm not going to let you use my card to order some crazy stuff on the internet and let them take my card. So she's like, you can open up your bank account. I was looking at the date that I opened it. I opened up my first bank account in June of 2002. Yeah, so like, and I ordered a bunch of like gear. I was ordering like a bunch of MMA fight shorts and stuff, but I ordered a Shoot-a-Box hoodie. And I remember I would always wear it at wrestling meets, like, cause I would wear the hoodie and I'd wear my Letterman jacket over top of it. And I remember one time I was at one of the events and one of the dudes was like, do you watch Pride? And we're like talking. Yeah. Now nobody else around us knows what the heck we're talking about. They're like, you guys watch that cage fight and stuff? What is that? But again, a lot of his designs are like that, where they have something subtle, where it's like you're on the inside of it. So if you want to check out some of his gear, it's been great to me as far as quality goes. I can speak for that. And I also like the designs. His website's epicrollbjj.com. And then the code is Jiu-Jitsu. You say 15% on the order, whatever you get. And again, enjoy the gear that you get there. And then the last sponsor that we have today is Manscaped. Manscaped has been with us for a little bit here. I'm a big fan of it. As I keep saying that about everything. I'm a big fan. It's just the way it is. I'm starting to sound like Bernardo. He's like, it's a huge honor for me.
Yeah. It's a big fan for me.
Yeah. I'm a big fan of these things, you know, but I don't
know about that one. That was a little, you got some better accents in your repertoire.
I got to work on my Bernardo.
It's pretty good sometimes. Sometimes it's on point, right? Like, okay, guys. You know, you do it like right before, like
I do it sometimes. I feel like every jiu-jitsu coach has a Bernardo. Like
you have to.
He's like, it's so like
he made a T-shirt about it, didn't he? Make like a T-shirt,
probably, man, because everybody was messing with it. Everybody was making fun of him
He's
one
the
time
best.
in the video.
He's like the
and he
nicest
rolled
dude.
with it. But I mean, it's funny. It's his thing. But Bernardo's such a cool dude.
Yeah,
you know, he's just I'm a big fan of that guy. I'm a huge fan.
He's a character. I'm a
big fan of everything. I said I'm a big fan of Bernardo.
You are. He's awesome.
Why no? But I'm a big fan of everything. Apparently, I just keep saying big fan. But anyway,
the things you're talking about.
Yeah, of course. Which again goes back to it. I don't have to sell anything.
Chewy loves shaving stuff.
No, so check this out. Manscaped. So check it out. So when they came on the scene, right? They sent us to it, and at first I was like, I told Eugene, I'm like, I'm not talking about a set of ball trimmers, right? I'm not doing it, you know, because I just wasn't going to do it. And then they gave me one of the trimmers. Yeah, I was like, it's a pretty nice trimmer, right? Because it's like, I like the fact that it's cordless. You can take it where you go. It's waterproof. Yep. You can use it wherever you're going. It has like the skin guard technology. So like, I don't have to worry about nicking myself, and it's incredibly important if you're going downstairs, but it's also important if you've got someone like me, like Jess, where she might shave like my back or something, like she doesn't have to like worry about nicking me. Right. But again, it's a nice trimmer. It's an effective trimmer. So they sent us the lawnmower, which is their clever title for a trimmer, which you can use from your beard to your balls. I use it to trim my beard. If you've ever watched my videos recently, you're like, man, your beard looks good. It doesn't always look good because sometimes I let it grow out. But if you look at it, you're like, man, your beard looks good. I'm trimming it with the Manscaped trimmer. Nice. And but again, they also sent us another thing called the smooth package, the ultra smooth package, which I'm gonna have to check out. I like the names. The crop.
So this one's got like exfoliator, gel, the shave. So it's like a razor for your.
It's a razor
for your stuff.
It's a razor for our stuff. I might even let Jess try the razor because for her legs or something. See what it does for that. That's a good test. Have you ever shaved your legs before? I did it once. I lost the
No,
back.
I think I like trimmed them or something.
Bro, I sliced the back of my leg and then like
shaved with a razor. I don't think I've ever shaved with a razor.
I trimmed it, I nicked it a little bit, and I just bled forever. But again, I'm gonna give this thing a try. So I'm gonna take this home this week, and I'll let you guys know how it goes.
Yeah.
But again, I'm a big fan of all their products. They're high quality, they're useful, and they again is resistant as I was after I used the product. I was like, all right, I'll check it out.
They're nice.
You know, whatever. So again, if you're interested in getting a new beard trimmer, or maybe you got someone in your life that could use one, or use any like grooming stuff, I've used their cologne too. I really like. You can go to their website at manscaped.com, and the promo code is Chewjitsu20. Save 20% on the order, and you get free shipping on whatever you order. So excellent little deal there. And then big announcement coming up.
Oh,
here it is. August 27th to 29th, 2021. I'll be doing a camp here in my gym. I may do more depending on the reception, but I'm going to be doing a camp down at my gym. I've been toying around with this idea for a couple of years now, and I want to get going. And so what we're going to do is this year, I'm going to do something special for my students, a little camp thing. And then if you guys want to join in on that, you can do that. It'll be 3 days from Friday to Sunday. We'll do jiu-jitsu training. There will be some hangouts, and there will also be some other stuff that we'll be doing that, again, if you're on my email list, you probably have a hint of what's going to be going on, but we'll be doing some different activities and things like that. Things that I think could also support your jiu-jitsu, that'll be optional for you to jump in. So if you want to get details on that, join my email list by going over to chewjitsu.net. There will be a little thing that says free ebook. Click that. And then from there, you'll be able to join up with your email list, your email address, and I'll get back to you with details. And then if you guys also want to support the Patreon and get access to a ton of content, a lot of stuff that we've been putting up, everything from workout videos, workout programs, to rolling videos, narrated rolls, techniques, extras with each guest, every guest, including Kade today. We have a little clip from the podcast, something that we think could be useful for your jiu-jitsu training. If you'd like to get access to all that, it's been building up for 2 years, or actually 3 years now.
It's going to be
3
years in August. We started this thing in August.
Go to patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. If you go there and sign up, you'll be able to get access to that. And we'll have some more stuff coming out with it in the future. As I'm kind of changing a few things around. And again, just you can check it out there, and we'll give you more details as time comes up. But you can check it out now by going to the website. And so, guys, with all that said, I feel like every time we do an intro, it's like the longest intro ever. But a lot of cool stuff going on. Let's get into the podcast with Kade.
Yeah, man. So thank you for coming on. First of all, how's everything going? And you're in California, right?
Yes, just got back from training in San Diego.
Yeah, how's that been? You're getting back to training full steam?
Yeah, I just put on the gi today for the first time in what felt like a couple months. I'm just doing this Nogi kick, so felt good to brush off and dust off the gi a bit.
How'd you feel? Like I was watching you this weekend. How'd that feel to get that submission?
Oh, it felt super rad. It was like I said, I was doing it so often in training beforehand, and I knew I wanted to hit it, and I was telling Professor and the boys and the team, I think if I because I had that set up off the guillotine that's been working so well, I'm like, if I throw that out there, I don't think he's gonna see it coming. So. Yeah,
and that's one of those chokes that it's so weird. Like I remember the first time having someone put me in it, like I wasn't expecting it at all, because you're like, you feel like you're in a good spot, and all of a sudden it catches up on you. I'm curious because that's one of those moves. It's kind of a risky move if you're still working with it. What made you feel like, so if you were developing that kind of move, that kind of a risky move, was that something you were drilling, like doing repetitions of, or was it something like, look, man, I'm going to just try this in the gym? And then when did you feel comfortable bringing that out to the competition stage?
I guess I would say after I started using it just repetitively in training, and not only was I using it a lot in training, I was catching some of the same people with it, multiple times. So I knew it was such a effective submission. I was like, there's no reason why this shouldn't work in the competition if it's working as good as, or if it's working as good as in the training room.
Talking about Justin Pierce,
Yeah, my brother was just saying how we got to talk about the OG who taught me it. His name's Justin Pierce.
Okay.
And he's just a super lengthy, just sort of goofy, relaxed grappler, but he's epic, super good technique. And he showed me it. And I would say maybe a few months before I did that Combat Jiu-Jitsu event, And then ever since then, I've been doing it pretty much like almost every class.
Justin's funny because he's like 6'1", he's like kind of skinny, you know, kind of scrawny, and he'll go in and he'll buggy choke. Like I've seen him buggy choke Kynan and Lucas and like all like the gnarliest guys, you know, like it's just like that choke it works on anyone. It's crazy.
So did he hit you guys with it first and then show it to you? Was it kind of like yeah, right? Because then you're like, okay, I got to learn this.
I got it to me. He did it. He's done it to everyone. He did it to me, and I was like, what? I was in a dominant position, and now I'm tapping. I was just like, you got to show me that.
Yeah, I did the same thing happened to me. Some guy did it to me, and I'm like, hold up, dude, go back to that. What did you just do to me? Because like I was in a good spot, and then I was getting choked.
Right, it's kind of mind-boggling, especially like the first time. You know, it's kind of.
You think it's like almost like a you get caught in it once, and then you're like, oh, that was like that'll never happen again. But then like you kind of the way you set it up, now you start setting it up different ways off, you know, even off the guillotine.
Yeah.
And you said you guys hit on some guys, or it's been hit on guys that are like pretty big dudes, pretty thick. So is that like, is there anyone that has a specific build that it's harder to like get the submission on?
Of course, generally, I guess the bigger your opponent's back, the more or the less room you have to get the lock. So technically it'll probably be a little more difficult. But honestly, it's been like I've done it on some of the biggest guys out there in jiu-jitsu. It's definitely doable against anyone, you know, especially big guys. So
what's your process? So like developing a new technique, you know, learning. I mean, this is kind of what you've been doing since you were a little kid, and like what's your process of learning a technique? How do you go about learning, drilling, implementing, and then honestly like using it in competition and hitting it? You've hit it twice.
Right. Yeah. I think implementing it into my sparring rounds as much as I can, like any new technique or any new position that I'm working, I just try to use it as much as I can into the sparring, because that's the closest live reaction I'm going to get to the competition. Right. So yeah, like for example, like the buggy choke, like I said, I've been working it so much in class and hitting it almost every day in class, and it kind of gave me the confidence to do it in the competition.
Is there one key ingredient to that choke? Is there one thing that you have to do, or one thing that people miss that maybe makes it successful or not?
For sure, that's it. It's definitely the kind of choke that if you know even a little things off, it might not submit your opponent. I would say the two biggest mistakes is people try to get like the lock, and then they try to cross their legs and get the triangle before they clasp their hands to get the elbow bent. And then they basically end up straightening their own arm and kind of like arm barring themselves trying to finish it. And I think the biggest detail is just making sure that your elbow is bent in a 90-degree angle so you can basically not, you know, release the pressure. You can keep that strong.
So cool, man. So I'm curious, like, because obviously a lot of us that have been around jiu-jitsu for a long time, we've watched you and your brother kind of come up, right? I remember like some years ago, someone was like, man, these Rotolo twins, dude, they're super, super good, you know? And then you guys were coming up. How long have you guys been training?
So long.
Because you're like, what? You're like 17 right now?
I just turned 18 in January. So yeah.
Oh, snaps. He's a full-grown adult now.
We're officially adults. So yeah,
awesome.
We've been training since we were 3, so about 15 years now.
Dang. What how did 3 years old, how did you get started? I don't know of a lot of places that start teaching kids at 3 years old. How'd that begin?
And especially back then too, and it was around 2006 when I started, there was not a lot of jiu-jitsu just in general in the US. I feel like, especially where I was living in California in Huntington Beach, there was maybe one jiu-jitsu gym, you know, in pretty much the entire area. And that was Clever's gym, was where I first started. And my dad was a blue belt at the time. So that's how I got introduced into it. He loved jiu-jitsu, and then that kind of sparked my love for it, you know, and just grew up training together. So, yeah.
What interested you about, like, what was it about, you know, I mean, you grew up kind of close to the beach, so surfing's a big thing, what you guys do as well. Right. What was like the thing about jiu-jitsu that you guys were really into? I mean, obviously having you and your brother started together, so having that thing you do together is kind of cool. And especially you have one of the best training partners out there, you know, so tell me about that, like the interest in jiu-jitsu.
First, I think it first sparked with just the passion for the sport. I think as we were young, we just loved grappling and fighting. And even with our dad, we were always, especially even before we started, when we were real young, like before I can remember, like 2 or 3, he was saying that he would always like wrestle with us, and we just loved to kind of grapple around. So we kind of just harnessed all that energy, you know, and just kind of found a passion for jiu-jitsu. And then as we started getting older, I would say that like started turning into more of a job and a passion, and we started taking it more serious and you know, just thinking of it as a job in that way too.
I'm curious because I've coached for a long time, and I used to be used to teach a ton of kids, and I always noticed it was interesting to see the dynamic of the relationship with the parent, and then the kid. And I always noticed like the difference of the relationship if the father or the mother that brought the kid had trained, how that changed things.
Yep.
What kind of relationship did you guys have with your father when you were getting into it? Was he pushing it on you, or was it one of those things where maybe he was just kind of encouraging you along? Like, because we see like a lot of times we'll see like parents that really press their kids forward, and then sometimes they kind of like they're kind of hands off, but they'll kind of give them a nudge when they need it. What was that relationship like getting into jiu-jitsu with your father, who's obviously into it? What was the dynamic like with that?
I honestly, I think my parents, my father and my mom were two of the best, like they guided us in the best ways we probably could have as youngins. I think there's a lot of parents, because your parents and your coach is what's going to, sculpt you into whatever grappler or person you're going to be, right? So
Sure.
It's super important. And I think like my parents, they just the route they put us on, we were always like taking privates and taking, extra classes, things like that. But it wasn't like kind of forced upon. It was more just because we loved it at first. And then if we didn't want to, they kind of just like, well, whatever, it's no worries. I remember there was a time where we took like, I think the longest break I've ever took was like 2 months off of jiu-jitsu. And I just wasn't feeling it. I was kind of burnt out. We just kind of stopped going for a little bit. And then eventually I found that passion again. And I think there's definitely a lot of parents that kind of force it upon. And maybe like it's one thing, of course, your kid's being lazy. He doesn't want to go to train and make him go to train.
Right.
But if you see that he's visibly getting like burnt out and kind of in a rut, maybe it's good to take a little break, and take a little pause and come back. So I think just finding that balance is what the parents should be looking for. I think that's what I had good balance growing up.
And then when did you, because you said obviously your parents and your coaches, obviously you guys are out at Atos now, right?
Yeah.
When did you begin the relationship with Andre and start training out there at Atos?
I believe about 4, maybe a little over 4 years now, almost 5 years ago, we moved to Atos, and he's taken our games from here and just brought it to here. He's skyrocketed our games, and there's no doubt, like especially Nogi, no doubt we wouldn't be where we're at without the help of Professor Andre and Angelica. They definitely boosted our game. So yeah, our relationship's been amazing with them since the get-go.
What do you think? What do you think he does as a coach? That's obviously, besides being as highly skilled as he is, I mean, he's such a great competitor. But what do you think? I guess maybe separates him as a coach that makes him so effective at helping you guys. Because there's a lot of guys that are very good at jiu-jitsu that aren't really good coaches.
Right.
This is true with any sport. There's a lot of people that are good at their sport, but they're not always the best at transferring that information to the next generation.
Absolutely.
So with him, he's helped a lot of people get really good at jiu-jitsu. What do you think makes him able to do that? Or what is the difference with him maybe versus some other coaches?
I think the difference is he wants to give that knowledge out, and like he wants his teammates and his students to learn. I think there's some people that kind of, maybe they open gyms, maybe they're still competing, or they open gyms and it's more just for money, or just kind of, they're not putting their all into it. They have other focuses. But Professor is there, like he just cares a lot. He's always there. Putting extra tips, extra advantages for the team, and it's really mandatory, I think, and it's a beautiful thing. Stoked to have it.
It is a beautiful thing, because if you put the mission of what you're doing, right? Like obviously he has a mission that he has out there with you guys. If you put that mission first and allow the money to kind of come in like second, right? It's like everybody needs money to survive and stuff, and you can do a lot of cool stuff, but to me, I don't know. I'm the same way. Like, you can't be the first thing that you're thinking about. You have to be like putting that other side. Because if you do all that stuff first and you let the money come, then the money becomes a representation of the people that you serve and how well you serve those people versus like me taking something from them.
Absolutely.
So that's super cool.
I agree 100%. Yeah.
What's training like at Atos? Tell me about like the environment. I mean, that, and then also kind of what your schedule looks like. How much are you training? Obviously you're young, your body can take a lot of training.
Yeah.
Tell me about kind of what the environment is like, drilling versus rolling. How does that look at Atos?
For sure, yeah. The classes it's always changing depending on what we have in the future. You know, if we have gi worlds coming up, you can see the majority of the class is going to be in the gi, grinding for in the comp class. If we have Nogi pants coming up or a Nogi event, you'll see more of us kind of shift towards Nogi. So it's always kind of changing, and the type of training is always changing too. One day we're doing Shark Tank, another day we're doing regular rounds, you know. So it's always kind of whatever professor's feeling, he's kind of guides us through the rounds. But yeah.
So what's your training like schedule like? You know, typical week for you?
So for my schedule, it's pretty it's honestly nothing too crazy. I'd say we train Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. There's no comp class. So Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday at Atos, and we train. Those are comp classes, and then usually we'll fit in like a surfing session or maybe a jog or run, some sort of cardio. But other than that, as of recently, we've kind of only been keeping it like one class a day, about like 4 to 5 times a week. We haven't been doing anything too crazy. I feel like the more I train, if I train any more than that, my body starts hurting and I just kind of get not super motivated to train. So I feel like that's kind of been our magic number as of recently.
Yeah, it's pretty smart because most of the time, like young guys, myself included, when I was like 18 years old, I was like training as much as I possibly could. Right. And as I've gotten older, I realized it's a little bit better if I kind of like train, but you always leave a little bit in the tank. So the next day you come up and you're ready to go, you're ready and you're fired up to be there. That's
it right there. That's the recipe.
Yeah,
for sure.
So I'm curious, I'm thinking about this because I'm putting myself in your shoes. I'm like, you know, you're 18 years old now and you're obviously a very high level competitor. Did you go to like a normal school, like high school, or were you like a homeschool or anything like that? How did that work out?
I went to public school up till, I believe basically right before high school. I was in public school all through elementary. And then once I hit high school, I homeschooled. My mom was like, no high school for you. And then I didn't think they really wanted us there. And then for whatever influences and then other reasons too. But mainly jiu-jitsu and just to have more time. We were training a lot in the mornings too. So it was just kind of not according to with their plan.
Yeah. What was that like? Because I asked that question because one of my students who's a black belt, he was a purple belt, you know, in high school for the most part. And, you know, he would go in and I mean, everybody in the school knew who he was. And, you know, because he'd have his matches posted up on social media and stuff like that. What was it like being like a middle schooler, knowing like jiu-jitsu? And at that point, I'm sure you were pretty darn good at it, you know, at that point. What was it like going through like, because again, that's the thing that everybody has, there's bullies and stuff like that and people trying to shove you around. What was it like being like an 8th grader and being able to probably like whoop all the adults in the school too?
Yeah, I'm sure it felt a little mini assassin.
Yeah, right.
It felt pretty cool. I kind of kept it close to, I think my brother, both of us kind of kept it close to our vest. You know, we didn't really tell a whole bunch of people that we were just kind of our friends, of course, and everyone. But yeah, we weren't like flaunting it or anything too much, you know.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when did you realize that you had something special? Because obviously there's a point where for most people where they realize, man, this is something different, or this is something like I had that moment where I was like, I'm going to go all in on this thing. You know, everybody has that moment at some point. Was there a match? Was there a day? Do you remember when you're like, all right, this is it for me. This is what I want to devote my, at least a large portion of my life to. I don't know if that was recent or not, but like, did you have any moments, whether maybe it was after a match where you won something, you're like, maybe I am really good at this and maybe there's something to it, or maybe there was some training session where maybe you got the better of some of the black belts and you're a young guy and like, maybe there's something to this. Did you have any moment like that?
I would say, honestly, I think the moment I like got extremely inspired and just realized that this was the path I kind of wanted to take forever was probably younger, around like 11, 12 years old, when I first started getting like my first couple sponsorships, and then right when tournaments started mattering a little more. And I would say especially once I breached out of the kids division and I started competing into the adult circuit, it was extra inspiring for sure, because then you're starting to make money on top of that and, you know, making a living out of it. And that's like when you really see like, I can actually live off this, you know? So
yeah,
kind of it's I would say around 11 or 12 was when when we first started getting our first sponsors and stuff. That was when we first were like, okay, we could definitely, I feel like, take this all the way. And then definitely around, like I said, once we started hitting the adult stages when we kind of confirmed it, and we were like, okay, we got this.
So you can do adult at 16?
Well, it depends. I was going to ask you guys, what age were you when you started competing at adult tournaments?
I believe I was like, I can't remember if I was 15 or 16, but yeah, definitely 16. I was competing in the adult division. Might have done a couple at 15, but I can't remember.
And what belt rank are you guys now?
We're brown at the moment.
Brown. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, you can't get 16. Like you can be a blue. But is that correct?
16, you can be blue. You can be, I think you can be purple at blue or purple at 16.
Well, if you
you can't get a black belt too, right?
Right. Yeah, I think you can spend like the 1 year right at blue belt, and then 16, and then for the second year, or right before, you can get promoted to purple.
Yeah. Is there like a tournament that you've done that kind of really stood out to you so far? I know we'll kind of get into the tournaments a little bit later, but like, is there one that was like has been really special or unique that has been a big victory for you that you've kind of been really proud of?
Honestly, the Combat Jiu-Jitsu one was a really fun event, and I would like to do that one again. But just because it was different than what I'm used to, you know, with the strikes and everything, it was definitely added some extra elements of, you know, spiciness to it. So yeah, that was pretty fun.
So you won that, like, and you haven't had any, obviously, no MMA experience that I know of. So like, were you extra nervous going into that? Like, was there, you know, because you know you're 17, I think, when you won it, and you're going against grown men that are obviously going to be stronger, probably stronger. They're kind of more developed. You're still growing. What was that like for you? Were you kind of nervous? And is there a specific way that you trained for that? Did you train strikes, or you just kind of honed in on your strengths?
Yeah, I wasn't super nervous just because I feel like I've been kind of getting hit in the head my entire life with my brother, and even we used to train a little boxing when we were younger and Muay Thai. So I kind of was a little familiar with strikes, not a professional by any means or anything like that, but I was more familiar with it. And leading up to it, I was training at an MMA gym called Arena 2. Of course, I was training at Atos for the comp classes, but so I was mixing in some MMA classes just to make sure I was 100% used to getting hit. And of course, with my brother and other teammates in the gym, I was practicing with the slaps too. So I had a lot of confidence. I know the event had like a get down rule, so it was like mostly wrestling, and then after the 1 minute, there'll be a get down rule. That means one of you have to start on bottom. Mm-hmm. That was the only thing I was kind of nervous for, because I had a kind of confidence in my wrestling. I thought I would be on top most of the time, so I didn't think I couldn't really be getting hit from on bottom, you know, or if I was on top. Mm-hmm. But I lost the get down rule a couple of times, so I was kind of forced to get down. So, but I found my way out of there and didn't really get hit too much, so it worked out good.
Mm. Yeah, the escapes whenever the punches are being thrown, like when I fought MMA, I remember like it's so urgent. There's no time to set things up nice and smooth. It's like you're getting hit. You got to move for it.
You got to move, right? Just misdirect.
Yeah.
Make them go. Yeah.
What was so you won that with a buggy choke. What was your setup off of that one? It wasn't, I don't think it was off a guillotine, correct?
Right. That one, I was fighting PJ. He had just taken me down. I was whizzing off of his single leg and a beautiful like back trip. I thought I was hunched over enough, and then he just set me back perfectly. But he landed basically in like a body lock side control, which is pretty much the same position for the buggy choke. And then so he landed right there, and as soon as we landed, I kind of just flicked it on. Pretty much how I said, same choke as the last one, but different setup. Yeah.
Is there I'm trying to think, is there a risk of like a Von Flue type thing where they're kind of putting pressure in? Is there some risk of that? Is that something you were aware of? Like,
I think you'd have to be like a specimen to Von Flue someone from there, just because like from that angle, I feel like once you get a good hook on your leg, like it's real hard to come back from it. Like you really have to disengage and really try to like create space. And I feel like before it's locked, and then once it's locked, you kind of in destination screwed. Yeah, so I think if you do go for it, it's definitely possible. You know, if you get the Von Flue before I get the buggy, then kudos, you know, props to you. But I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know, man. Like I remember like getting put in it, and if the guy knows what he's doing, I remember feeling pretty gnarly before I even had the chance to like set up anything else.
Well, because I think instinctually, what do? You pressure. You put pressure down, and you want that pressure. They give you the pressure, and it allows you to kind of, as long as you can get your hips up, you can kind of start.
That's exactly that's what you're looking for, is that connection. I think so. If my brother's last match with Craig, that's pretty much the main mistake I feel like he made in that match. That's why he didn't end up getting that one buggy choke with him. And he set it up a little bit early, and Craig had just enough time to frame away and kind of push off him. I think if Ty had let Craig like fully pass the guard and sink in, Ty would have been able to like and keep pushing like, oh, don't pass, you know, and then finally let him like get that last squeeze. I think Ty could have then set it up, but he set it up a touch early, and Craig was able to push.
Yeah, I was watching him try to set it up. I was like, are we gonna get 2 buggy chokes in the same event from like the brothers? I was like, man, it'd be slick, right?
You know, they're like, everybody was like watching for it too. Like everybody was kind of like, let's see if you can do it. I mean, and almost like when you were doing it, it was like, no, he's not going to hit that again. And it was just because it was just the setup, because almost like you let him kind of go in the position you wanted at the who's number one. But man, I wanted to, you know, is there a match or like someone you've competed against that's been like a really important match or something that's impacted your game in some way, maybe a win or a loss in any of your tournaments so far?
I would say that first match with Ethan, that one match where I just had a pretty terrible performance, that was a huge kind of learning experience for me, I think, in a lot of ways, as far as just being professional, like eating right, you know, just making right choices leading up to the match, and also during the match, and when I'm feeling like in a state like super tired or something like that, just little ways to kind of hang in there and stay afloat, you know, just little things with my brother. I think that match I would probably learn the most from.
What do you think? Why do you think your performance was like terrible in that situation?
Not making any excuses. I had like just like some pretty shitty food the day of. Like,
dude, that plays a big role, man. Like if you have some bad food, like it'll mess with you.
Well, I was like sinking out there. I remember like 5 minutes in, I like puked into my mouth, and I was like, oh, I hope he didn't see that. I was like, but I tried to hold it in because I didn't want to get DQ'd, of course. You know?
Right, of course.
I
swallow it, baby.
I like I asked him after the match, I'm like, did you see me puke right there? He was like, I wasn't sure.
Oh man,
I've had that happen. My first tournament, I was so nervous, I puked into my mouthpiece. It was gross. So it was awful.
Oh.
I remember one of my
no, I puked in and I like a swat, and then I said, no, I held it, man.
One of my high school wrestling tournaments, I remember I was going against the guy in the semis, and I'd beat this guy like 3 times that year, and then we go against each other. My stupid buddy, man, like I used to eat my oatmeal and my eggs before whatever, and then we went to Burger King. We got a crust sandwich, bro. It was the worst decision of my life. I get out there, and again, you know, I'm 17, whatever. Get out there and I get stuck by the guy. He pins me, and I get off the mat. He gets his hand raised, and I beeline it straight for the bathroom. I felt terrible, and like once I got rid of all that, I was good for the rest of the day. But I was like, lesson learned when I was 17.
Absolutely, that was literally, I feel like, the same lesson I had there with Ethan. I ended up having like half a Cane's chicken sandwich, you know, like and I was just
greasy,
like, all greasy. I was sinking out there.
Oh man, that's a big deal, man. I had one of my other buddies, a black belt, a young guy that trained with me. And you know, I told him he had a super fight. We did this like in-house. Well, it wasn't an in-house tournament. It was basically a tournament done in our gym, and we didn't have like 100 people sign up for it. And he had a super fight against another tough black belt regionally. And I told him, I was like, man, go get some good food in your stomach, man, and go chill for a few hours, go relax. He's all right. And then everybody's telling me he like puked outside. I was like, well, puked? I'm like, what do you mean puked? And I was like, dude, what did you eat? He's like, I went to so-and-so and got a breakfast burrito. Like a breakfast burrito. Like,
it's so heavy.
Like, so anybody that's listening, listen from all of our experience. Like, make sure you eat the same good food that you've been eating leading up to training or to the competition the day of the match. Don't try to change it up and eat anything greasy.
Yes, I agree. I concur.
So you've had you know, you had some pretty good success like in gi and nogi, and like you said, you've kind of just finally put the gi on for the first time in a while. Now do you feel, and this is just for you, you know, do you feel like one complements the other? Do you feel like it's important if you want to be good at nogi? Do you feel like there's gi that's valuable to train, or do you just think like more often than not, you know, if you're having nogi competition, just stick to nogi? What do you think about that?
I do think they complement each other in ways. If anything, I feel like nogi helps your gi more than gi helps your nogi, for sure. But I like the way, like for example, today I felt great in the gi. I think whenever I'm training nogi for like a long period of time, it brings like a different mindset to the gi. I feel like I'm like basically doing nogi in the gi. I find myself doing like collar ties and like secrets and overhooks, and it actually kind of throws a lot of the gi guys off. I feel like when you start playing like the Nogi game. So I do think they definitely help each other in ways.
Yeah, because with the Nogi, you have to rely on your body pressure and those grips. You can't, handles are not there, and even sometimes on the takedowns, right? Like you can use like an inside tie instead of going for the collar grip. And a lot of guys in the gi, they don't respect the normal steering wheel tie, so they don't touch it that much. And you can still set your takedowns up there. Whereas if you grab the collar, they're way more aware of it.
Absolutely,
that's right. Yeah.
For sure.
Which do you have one that you prefer more than the other? Or do you just kind of go back and forth whenever you like?
I think I like Nogi personally. I used to be like back and forth all the time. As of recently, I definitely favored Nogi more. I just feel like it's easier to fight or to go against bigger, stronger guys. Nogi for sure compared to in the gi, they have grips and they can kind of just dictate where you're gonna go. But Nogi, there's no grip, so I could kind of maneuver my way around those grips.
Yeah, no, I'm the same way. Plus, I feel like I don't know about you, I feel like I get dinged up less from Nogi. I feel like in the gi, I get like caught up and stuff. Whereas in Nogi, I feel like I just have some movement available to me that I don't get. It's more exhausting during the rolling, but I feel like I take less damage to my body overall.
For sure, your fingers aren't hurting all day.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, man, what's it like? So, another thing, you were talking about your brother. Your brother obviously keeps popping into because you guys, train together and stuff. What's that like having like literally like like almost another version of yourself that's like out there competing, and you guys are both like killing it, winning everything together and getting better together. What is that like? And like, did you guys have like epic fights as kids? Just like, what's it like having a brother that's also a world level competitor?
No, it's unbelievable, and I definitely wouldn't have gotten to where I am without him, and I think vice versa. I think we definitely kind of bounced off each other, and that's why kind of we are where we're at in the competition scene. But yeah, we've definitely gotten into a lot of scraps growing up, and pretty much an entire life of competitiveness and fighting, and we both have scars because of each other on our bodies. And
that's awesome.
Yeah, a lot of brawls.
How do you think for yourself and for your brother, how have you all impacted each other's games? Like, do you sometimes see him do something like, ooh, I want to learn that, or he sees you work on something like, and are your games similar? Or are they different?
For how similar they are, they're pretty different at the same time. Like, we pretty much, like, every class we've ever done, we've like gone in together. I feel like we've learned the same techniques our entire life, so it's like we have the same arsenal kind of, and the same techniques in our repertoire, but we kind of just use them differently. I think my brother's more into pace and grindiness and kind of tiring out his opponents and just making you kind of just not want to be there. And then I think I try to keep it pace, but at the same time I'm more like a little bit looser in scrambles and looking for like different submissions and stuff. So we kind of have different strengths,
You guys kind of, do you feel like just having him there, like, just is it just a constant motivator, like, to improve? As sometimes he's getting a little ahead and it makes you want to catch up, and vice versa?
100%. Exactly. And not just with jiu-jitsu, but in everything we do. Like, if one of us starts kind of climbing above one another, you could definitely tell the other one's working. It's extra hard to get right back there. Just in any sport, like surfing, for example, like 1 week I'll be surfing better, and then you'll see Ty surfing every day, like focusing extra hard, and then he's working as hard as he could to kind of come back up. So we're always, I feel like, off and on. Like one week he's better, 1 week I'm better.
Yeah, basically feeding off each other.
Yeah. What about like surfing? Like, so I want to kind of go back a little bit about like being burnt out, knowing when you get burnt out. Like, has surfing been one of those things that is a good distraction from jiu-jitsu, or is it a good complement?
Absolutely.
How has that been helpful for your, for staying fresh with jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, 100%. For us, surfing is that getaway. That's basically what surfing's been for us our entire lives. Like, we started surfing around the same time we started jiu-jitsu, like I think 3-4 years old, when we're babies, pretty much, so we kind of, I would say personally, I love surfing just as much as jiu-jitsu. It's like they're right there I don't love one sport more than the other. Like, there's feelings surfing that I still can't even compare to feelings in jiu-jitsu. You know what I mean? So they both have their positives, and like every time you paddle out into the water, like, you're not thinking about jiu-jitsu at all, or at least I'm not. It's kind of all all those thoughts in jiu-jitsu, or who am I gonna fight next? What mistake? Any little thought you're always thinking of, just kind of goes away, and then you're just kind of waiting for the next wave to come in. So it's definitely a good mind relaxer.
Yeah, it's like Zen time. I think any person that competes like on a regular basis, or is their athletic thing is what they do for a living. They need to find something where you get some ability to turn your brain off for a little bit and just like be away from it.
100%. It's mandatory. Otherwise, you just get like stuck in a rut, and you just kind of, yep.
Yeah, and it's a lot of times like you'll come back from the thing recharged, or even sometimes you'll have your best ideas for things to do while you're away from it, while you've got the distance from it, and you can kind of just get away from it for a bit.
Absolutely. I feel like I have a lot of my best training sessions right when I come back from vacation.
Yeah.
Like I'm fired up. I want to train. I want to be there, and then, that's when you're doing the best, is, when your spirits are lifted the most.
Well, yeah, because I mean, think about it. If you're training all the time, you may not feel super sore or whatever, but like, even if you train like, the next day, your body's still broken down a little bit, you're not fully recovered. So sometimes you'll have guys where they take a couple days off, maybe life gets in the way, and then they come back from a 2-day rest or something, or like I said, a vacation, they're fired up, they're mentally clear, and they come in with a fresh body, and they'll have some of their best training sessions. They can just go for the whole time with no rest, no nothing. They're good for it. Whereas when you try to grind out everything all the time, it just, your beats up your body.
Totally.
Is there somewhere you see, like, we've seen kind of the evolution of jiu-jitsu towards the leg lock getting more popular. Is there somewhere you anticipate, or you see another position or something where jiu-jitsu is going, where you're going to start kind of maybe staying on top, like you're trying to stay on that wave, right? Stay in front of it. So where do you think jiu-jitsu might be going? What might you be working on in the future?
For sure, man. That's a very, very good question. Interesting question. Honestly, I'm not 100% sure. Like it could be anything. There's always that new technique or that new niche that everyone just starts doing, and it kind of just takes over. So we'll see. It's bound to happen soon. It could be maybe just getting on the head with front headlocks. I think a lot more people are getting on the head compared to before, and even like in the gi. I've personally been doing a lot more in the gi. It's been stopping like barambolos and a lot of cool different sweeps, just jumping on the head and just making them address that. So
right.
Other than that, I honestly don't know, but I'm excited for whatever new niche there is.
What are you working on right now? Is there anything like, do you let like the tournaments or the competitions dictate kind of your style of training, what you're going to be working on? Or is there just something you find that interests you and you go kind of dive into that?
Yeah, pretty much like whatever we come across in training, we basically just kind of replicate like our opponents, or just like what most the guys in our divisions are trying to do. If we're trying to play guard and just run different scenarios all the time, it's like 80%, 90% sparrings, and then from there just kind of find little windows, new little techniques. But honestly, I think everything that kind of new comes of us just comes off of like scrambles and training. We're like, oh, that was cool, so let's try that again.
Yeah, like by accident. Sometimes things just kind of, you fall into them, which you've had some situations too where you guys just kind of like are moving around and something just opens up and like, what is that? Yeah. So I want to ask you about, so you've got, I don't know, maybe you have a competition or something before then, but the Polaris Squads, 3 events coming up, and I think it pushed it back a little bit to August 7th. Tell me about that. Is there, so it's a team event. It's kind of like team versus team. What's the rule set for that like? And what, is that something like unique that you've never done before?
Yeah, I haven't, I definitely haven't done the teams before. And I know it's going to be the bracket versus bracket. What I was actually not 100% sure on that, well, I thought it was interesting. I wasn't sure if they were mixing the brackets or not, having it so that like, if it was like a team format where you just select your team. So like number 1 guy first, number 2, number 3, and then just kind of figure out how it goes that way, or if it's separated by weight divisions. If it works like I
thought it worked, because I thought they did one before where basically they had, you have your grapplers on one team. If like, let's say for instance, if grappler A and grappler B from separate teams, right? If the first person from grappling A team wins, he just stays in. Because I thought it was Polaris where they had the show. Maybe I'm thinking of the others.
There's Quintet.
Maybe it was Quintet where basically they would just keep going.
Yeah, right. It might be just so like, and what's the rule set? I guess, I mean, obviously, can you have a draw? Or do you know?
Yeah, I would have to double check.
It's all good, man.
Yeah, I would have to double check. I was like, I'm down.
Yeah, you just don't even really care about the rule set, huh? You just kind of do whatever kind of interest. But yeah, having the team event's kind of interesting. And then
Absolutely.
I think is JT the captain?
He is
of the team. Yeah,
our captain was just a legend. No better captain than I could think of. So that's sick.
Yeah, we had JT did a seminar at our gym, and he's a super cool, very very technical, super cool guy. And that kind of interests me. Like, is there anybody you look up to? I know Professor Galvao is obviously one, but is there anyone else that kind of has been a big influence on your jiu-jitsu and kind of your progression?
For sure. I say close teammates. I have my teammate Perez. He's been a big influence on my jiu-jitsu, and he's helped us a lot.
Mike?
Mike Perez. Yeah, he's an animal.
Yeah, he's got some solid wrestling.
Yeah, he's unbelievable. He's actually has some of probably the most underrated jiu-jitsu I think in the game right now. And
well, jiu-jitsu is good. I always I love watching a guy who goes in there and he pushes the pace and he'll go for the takedown. I always like watching that, so I like watching his matches. Yeah,
he's a beast. He hasn't been super active as of recently, but I know he's coming back very soon. He's coming in a lot harder, but yeah, he's definitely had some sick matches, and he's helped me a lot with my game and my stand-up, my wrestling, and my leg lock. So yeah, a lot tribute to him for sure.
Was he out because of injuries or something like that?
Yeah, I think he had a little elbow injury or something like that, and a couple little things like that. But he should be coming back anytime now. I think this week he's been starting up training again. So yeah, excited to see him back.
Didn't he do the Nogi pans or something? Or?
Yeah, he competed in I think it was pans, but I think he ended up losing, but I think that was when he had the injury and he kind of had a blown out elbow, and I don't think he was.
All right, I got a rule set for you guys. Okay, I'll try to. So it's basically going to be Nogi. So the teams are 8 members per team, 4 members under 75, 4 members under 95 kilograms. Basically, captain acts as a focal point, deciding competitor order on the fly. You use timeouts. Also, captains also come into play in case of a draw at the end of the event. So I'll talk about that. So the format is it's Nogi with all known submissions from IBJJF and ADCC are legal. The event will have 2 40-minute halves. During those halves, there will be a winner stays on format. So each round for the match will be competitors is 5 minutes with a 30-second rest period in between. So if you win, I guess you stay on. They'll send one competitor to the stage. Let me see if there's anything else. If there's a tie, a draw, there's no submission. Both competitors will be off and 2 fresh ones will come on. So kind of, I guess if I'm not sure if there's any point format or not. Let me see.
Sick.
So you choose them on the fly basically during the 30-second breaks. You kind of pick your. So I guess you don't know who they're picking and they don't know who you're picking. So it's kind of you can be used in any order aside from the first competitor. So that's kind of cool.
Right. And so anyway, so you could match the big guy with the small.
Yes.
That's dope.
When you grapple with bigger opponents, do you have a particular game plan that you like to put on them?
I definitely try to be on top usually. I don't really like being on bottom with bigger bodies, but I just try to get them tired or if I can get a quick sub.
So let me see. There's also timeouts, which they kind of call between 30-second those 30-second changes. But basically, the winning team is the team with the most points earned by submission wins. So at the end of 80 minutes, so you have 2 40-minute halves.
Oh man, dude, there's rolling. So they just keep going.
Yeah. So in the case of a draw, there will be a 20-minute sudden death overtime extension during which the same rules apply. The first team to win by submission will win. Okay. So. That's it. Yeah. So that kind of sums it up. But I'll leave a link to the rule set because it's very unique. Because I've never seen and I think they changed it. So that's kind of cool. So basically, you're on 5 minutes. You go at it. Then you have a 30-second break. Unless you win within that 5 minutes, then you go on. So I don't see anything about points. I don't think there's any points involved. So kind of that'll kind of make you pretty aggressive going for the kill.
For sure. Sounds like it. Sounds very interesting.
Well, I always thought it would be interesting to do because in fighting. And I know you've probably experienced this in grappling. In fighting, you have rounds. You have 3, 5, whatever rounds. And a lot of times those rounds are helpful. Sometimes you go into the first round, you're okay, I need to readjust my game plan, whatever. Mm-hmm. It's really hard to do that in the middle of a grappling match. There's been times where I remember one time I was struggling with this one guy and he was up by 2 points. had 2 minutes left. My pants came undone. And so I had to tie them up.
Yeah.
And I remember it like gave me a second to like think about what I got going on. And
Really?
okay, all right. But I always thought about it would be interesting to do a jiu-jitsu competition with an actual round setting where you got like a little bit of time in between and then go again. What's your preference? Do you like point-based tournaments or sub-only tournaments, or do you just not really care? You just compete whatever?
Yeah, I kind of just try to compete whatever and just get as much kind of experience as I can. But I do like what you're saying about the rounds. It is kind of interesting. It creates a different aspect because like when you're going into a match, like an 8-minute match or whatever, a 10-minute match, 15-minute match, you do kind of get tunnel visioned, right? And like, you kind of like, you may start trying the same thing. You don't see everything. And that's why it's good to have a good coach telling you what to, there. So yeah, that's interesting. But what was the question one more time about?
So, well, my question was basically about like sub only versus points, because I know a lot of people poo poo on point based tournaments because they say they're boring. But to me, a lot of times points where there's going to be a winner and a loser, whether those points are basically on a point board or there's judges scoring it. Like, however, I think that that's a good thing because it creates like there's going to be a winner and a loser, you know. And I think that sometimes like where it's sub only and it won't go to a submission, it can sometimes create passivity. You know, like I remember the old Metamorph show.
Oh yeah,
like,
it's like
it was like
minutes.
You'd have all the matches go to like draws because there's no points. But your thoughts? What do you think about just like point based tournaments, because you've won plenty of those, and sub only tournaments, which obviously you have experience with as well?
They could be totally two different feels. Personally, I kind of like the sub only, the longer round, just because I feel like personally, like the longer the fight goes, the better for us. Just because I kind of feel like I maybe have cardio and a pace on our side, and we can kind of keep going.
Yeah.
But as far as like for like a viewer's point and like an excitement, I think, man, that's a tough question because you say one or the other, but then you say kind of points is boring, and you see a points match, it's super exciting. You say sub always boring, you see one. So I think there's exciting matches. I think it just honestly depends on the competitors.
I agree.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. I think it does depend. Some people like you can kind of game the system, so to speak, in any point, like any type of rule set. I think in the Polaris, I was just reading, they have basically if you're stalling, like they can get, basically you can't stall if they can call you for stalling a couple of times. I guess they DQ you. So that's kind of good because some people will just be like, I just don't want to lose. And like for EBI, for example, those type some you would see some people really just kind of stall until they get to the overtime. And that's when they would, they really train the overtime. So I think you're right. It depends on the competitor. It depends on kind of what you're going for, what your goals are as well. And I mean, I think being exciting, going for the kill is kind of like, that's what, if somebody is not familiar with jiu-jitsu and they see a submission, most people can kind of, something, interesting happen versus like points. If you're playing for points, not as exciting sometimes, but you can use the point system to still, finish. So I think it definitely depends on the type of game you play.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's guys like you're saying, there's guys that like will do points and go into a point match thinking, okay, if I pull guard first and come up, that means I get an advantage and he can sweep me back and then I can sweep him back. And by the 4-minute, 30-second mark, I should be up by 2 points. So you know what I mean? So there's guys that play like that. Or there's like, you could go into a points match and think, I'm going to sweep this guy and then sub him, So there's two different ways of thinking. So I think it definitely kind of depends on the mindset of the
team. For sure. I want to ask you kind of one question, like since you've been, you started jiu-jitsu very, very young age. And so for parents or even for kids, what do you think was important in keeping you motivated or keeping you interested in jiu-jitsu as a kid? What kept you really interested, and maybe even advice for parents? You kind of mentioned that your dad was kind of very encouraging. What was that for you to stick with jiu-jitsu? Because you said you had taken, that 2-month break. So like for parents or kids, what keeps you kind of going?
I think it could be different things for different people. My parents were, like I said, super supportive, and they were always, even from a young age, even if I obviously like maybe wasn't the best, they'd always tell me, you guys are the best. Like you and Ty are the best. There's no one's better than you guys. So like always hearing little remarks like that kind of just would always kind of keep us inspired and be like, dang, we're the best. Like That's pretty cool. I'm not gonna stop if I'm the best, you know.
Yeah.
So kind of keeping it up like that and just making sure you're like inspiring and uplifting your kid instead of, you know, kind of making him or doing whatever. But yeah, for us, I think hearing that was definitely helpful in keeping us in it, and just seeing the results in competition. I think we fell in love with competing a lot, and kind of being obsessed with like winning. You know, that winning feeling is just like surfing for us is that the pinnacle feeling is like in the barrel. You know, it's like the best feeling in the world. I feel like the only other feeling that compares to that feeling would be like winning in jiu-jitsu. So I guess the results and that.
So here's the last question I've got for you. So we just did a show about it. We did a video about it, and
we're gonna ask. All right, go ahead.
I'm always curious because everybody has different opinions, right? So basically, recently, and I'm sure you saw it. It's, you know, the everybody's sitting around on social media is just they're bored, and so they had they showed that clip, and it shouldn't have made it to the internet. Like, someone shouldn't have done that, but they had that clip of Orlando and Sean Strickland, and Orlando's like trying to, you know, like do his little overhook thing, and you know, everybody, you know, got all upset about it, whatever, you know, this and that. But afterwards, Orlando talked about what he said happened, and, you know, whatever. But my question is to you, because everybody got all upset about, you know, the people a lot of times in jiu-jitsu will talk about like dick moves or being a jerk in the gym, that kind of thing. But as you and I both know, it's a rough sport. It's not like, whoever dubbed it the soft art, like, it's not soft. Like, you know, it's a rough sport. And especially if you're a professional or if you're competing a lot, like, it's really rough. But like, what would be a scenario where you would say someone was being kind of a jerk, or like, if you've ever had a situation where you thought someone was kind of being a jerk to you in the gym, what do you kind of think separates that from being like, all right, we're really rough, we're getting after it? Because I'm sure you and the guys at Atos, you guys get after it, you guys are super, super tough. But like, when do you say like, man, this guy's kind of being a jerk? What separates that line? And if you don't have a good answer for it, you don't have to answer it.
I personally, for me, like when I first saw that video with Orlando and the Strickland guy, I was definitely a bit like kind of raising an eyebrow, and I was like, "Ooh, I don't know if that was cool." But then after hearing the full story, it kind of definitely made more sense. And I think Strickland said something like I was like, "Oh, here's what I think of jiu-jitsu." He goes, he said something like, "I'll fuck you up" or something like that, right? So after,
he's talking trash.
Yeah, he said, I mean, if someone says they're gonna F you up, I mean,
game on, dude.
The same. I think he had an amazing reaction, to be honest. If someone says they're gonna F me up to my face, I don't. You know what I mean? You're not gonna get the best reaction.
No, exactly.
I think Orlando did a great. I think he kept it mellow, to be honest. You know.
Yeah.
Oh, bro, I agree. I was telling someone, I was like, look, man, a pro tip, like, don't tell a 300-pound guy who might be a world champion in jiu-jitsu that you're gonna mess him up and expect him to flow roll with you.
Yeah,
you know?
That makes zero sense. I think that made no sense to me. I think he kind of had it coming, if that was the case, right?
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But assuming, but let's just say it's another day. So like, you're training with just training with someone. Where do you think like that line is? Like, where like, and again, if you don't have an answer, I just like asking like guys who train hard and stuff like that to see what they say.
For sure.
But where do you think that line is? Because for me, like, for instance, I can grind my forearm into someone's face. And I had one of my females last night, purple belt. She did this to me. She was grinding her forearm into my side of my face a little bit, like putting some pressure. I came up with my hand, and then she tried to attack my arm. Right. You know, for me, that's not a dick move. She was basically doing it for a reason.
For sure.
You know what I mean? And so a lot of times but if she was just sitting there like wrenching on my face, then there would be a problem. But have you ever had some situation like in your own training where you're like, you thought maybe someone was kind of being a jerk or something like that? That kind of situation. Like, what do you think separates it?
No, for sure. Like you said, there's intent. There's sometimes you're looking for a reaction, which I think in that case is cool for the most part, unless you're doing something extra, you know, dickish. But yeah, I think there's definitely that fine line for me. Yeah, if you're just like, you know, forearm on the face, hard cross face with hard clubs, I'm cool with all that. But like, maybe the second you start, like, if it goes more in front of the face, like you start jabbing at my face, or like, you know, it's like maybe the second or third accidental kick, then I just start getting frustrated. You know what I mean? Then start getting. I never like snap on a new one. Usually, I just pick up the pace super hard. You know?
Sure.
Yeah. So there's definitely that fine line.
I would think like, if people didn't really know who you were and they see this young kid, they may try to bully you Like in the gym, they see you're kind of younger, maybe like smaller a little bit. I don't know what your weight is exactly, but like, you know, you can tell if somebody's a little bit young. You're still kind of, you know, developing and stuff.
For sure.
And like, does anybody try to bully you on the mats and then you kind of get the best of them?
For sure. I've had wars with. I've had so many training rounds with so many animals. Honestly, me and Professor Nassar. I don't know if you guys know Nassar Lloyd.
I know who he is. Yeah,
trains at Atos. He's a beast. We've probably had one of the most crazy rounds. It wasn't jiu-jitsu. It wasn't even combat jiu-jitsu. Like it might have been one of the craziest rounds you've ever seen. It started off as Nogi hand fighting, and then one slipped here, and then so the next one kind of slipped here. And then we just literally just started slapping each other. And I swear it was just a slap boxing like.
Yeah,
it was crazy, but yeah, we definitely had some fun scraps like that in there.
That's why you shouldn't air like someone's like training footage out like that, because if someone was to see that roll with you guys, they'd probably think you guys hate each other. But you're like, no, dude,
sure.
we're just getting down, you know?
Exactly. And then afterwards, you're just like, good shit, bro. And I'm like,
right.
You're used to it though. Like you've been in that environment for a very long time. You're like, and plus the situations, your coach, right? You guys know each other. You have a respect. You grind. You work really hard together. So I think like you don't take it personally. You don't take it as like an attack on you, right?
No,
it's just like, all right, let's pick up the pace.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Let's get a little more aggressive. And you kind of know when you get to a point, like you kind of ramp up. And then usually hopefully it ends nicely, but sometimes
nicely, right?
Sure. But that's cool, man. That's cool that you kind of, I think you growing up like in the gym, so to speak, like you don't get rattled as much probably. You're kind of you don't get rattled with, somebody being aggressive with you. And I think that's important for young kids anyways, that maybe are getting into jiu-jitsu, just they're able to deal with some of these situations. I think it's probably helped you in some ways deal with some difficult situations because you deal with hard things every day on the mats.
Absolutely, yeah. Even as recently, it's came into play and helped us. So
awesome, man. Well, so good luck at Polaris. I know it's gonna be on August 7th, and if people want to follow you or kind of see what you guys are doing, you and your brother, how can they do that?
I think our Instagram is where we're most active. Our Rotolo Brothers Jiu-Jitsu. I know it's kind of a long tag, but Rotolo Brothers Jiu-Jitsu is where we're most active on Instagram. Thank you.
It's RUO, right?
RUOTOLO, Rotolo Brothers.
Yeah, so go follow them on Instagram and watch them do some crazy.
You guys have instructional? Do you have an instructional out?
Yeah, we do. We with BJ Fanatics, we have a couple out. We have the leg pin system that we've been using a lot in competitions. The Darce instructional. Which obviously we love Darces. And then our most recent one was the defending leg locks. I'm actually super stoked about the new one.
Right on.
Defending modern day leg locks, because that's kind of been the biggest nuance to our game. So that's
awesome. Well, appreciate you taking the time, man, and best of luck.
Absolutely.
It was awesome watching you compete, man. It's fun. You're a super fun competitor. You're always aggressive and you bring it. So it's really fun to watch you.
Hell yeah. Thank you so much, guys. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'll keep it up for sure. Hope to see you guys soon. Peace out.
Take care, man.
Thanks, guys.
See you, man.
Peace.
All right, guys. So I hope you enjoyed the podcast today with Kade. I had a fun time talking to that young fella. I wish him the best.
Young whippersnapper.
I know, dude. I'm getting old.
Dude, what a cool kid.
Yeah.
Or man now. I mean, he's 18. He's a man.
He's a man by legal standards.
And he's handling grown men on the jiu-jitsu mats.
Yeah, that's so impressive.
Got a slap fight at 17, man, and won. Went slapping people at Combat Jiu-Jitsu.
I know.
I was like, dude, you weren't scared about it? Slap fight. Really?
I know.
Like, honestly, like, dude, you got grown men. Like,
well, yeah. And I mean, that's
people have been knocked out by those. Like, that's what I'm saying. People have been stopped by strikes.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing.
Real.
Getting into a fight situation, a lot of times the physicality that goes into like fighting and punching and things like that really, again, where jiu-jitsu, a lot of times you can be really young.
Yeah,
you typically need to be a little bit older for MMA. It happens every now and then. You do get some, but it's just not as common. But again, super impressive. So keep your eyes on that guy and give him a follow over on Instagram and kind of keep an eye on him. So
yeah, he'll be competing at Polaris
on August 7th.
Squads 3 event. Yeah.
And so again, guys, big thanks to our sponsors, charlottesweb.com. You can go to their website, charlottesweb.com. Promo code is jiu-jitsu. You save 15% on your order. Whatever you get. Again, I'm a big fan of their gummies, and I would encourage you to check them out. Epic Roll, epicrollbjj.com. everything from gear to just lifestyle clothing related to jiu-jitsu. You can check them out at epicrollbjj.com. Promo code is Chewjitsu, of course. Save 15% on the order. Manscaped for the premier below the waist male grooming, but you can also use it on your chin too if you need to, like me. Use it on the beard. It does a good job of trimming the beard up too. Check out some of their products at manscaped.com. Promo code is Chewjitsu20. Save 20% on the order, and you get free shipping. And you can check us out also on Patreon, patreon.com/the Jiu-Jitsu podcast. And again, you get access to almost 3 years worth of content, everything from workout programs to rolling videos, narrated rolls, techniques, clips with each podcast guest, where you can hear, high level black belts and people who are very highly skilled in their particular areas give tips related to jiu-jitsu training, both on and off the mat. And then again, if you guys want to get details on the upcoming sort of camp that I'm going to be doing at my gym on August the 27th, 29th, go to my website at jujitsu.net. You can sign up for my email list there by clicking on free ebook and put your information in there, and I'll get in touch with you and keep you updated. And that's it. So, guys, hope you enjoyed the podcast, and we will see you next week.